Now, this is a book that turns our attention back to seasons and gets us to examine food from a seasonal perspective. This is a cookbook that covers recipes across faiths, across regions of India. So you've got recipes from the south, you've got recipes from the north, from the east, from the west. So the recipes in this book have been contributed by women from all walks of life. Hi folks, it's a Saturday and I'm relaxing at home, and I was gifted this recipe book called Rtū Rasyā by Shri, the boss. To be honest, I don't find too much time these days to read books, cookbooks, etc. But since the boss had gifted this to me, so I said let me take a look at the book. And I found the more I spent time glancing through this book, the more I'm drawn to this. So as the name suggests, Rtū Rasyā, Rtū means season and Rasya, I suppose, is the essence of the season. This is a cookbook that has food that's organized by the seasons. You know what's interesting is that in the good old days, we used to eat what was seasonally grown. We used to eat what was seasonally available. Right? So at certain times of the year, you had certain ingredients available, you had certain produce available, and that's what we pretty much ate. Now, this is a book that turns our attention back to seasons and gets us to examine food from a seasonal perspective. And what's interesting here is that this cookbook organizes recipes by seasons in India. So it begins with spring, Vasanta Rtū, and then it goes on to summer, and then it goes on to monsoon, autumn, pre-winter, winter. You get the drift. The only grouse that I have with this cookbook until now is that it doesn't have an index somewhere in the beginning to help you navigate. But in a manner of speaking, that also forces you to look for things. And as you look for things, you come across interesting aspects within the book. So this is a cookbook that's put together by Ficci Flow, the Bangalore chapter. So the recipes in this book have been contributed by women from all walks of life. And so the recipes are organized by season. What's nice is there's a great deal of emphasis on festivals within the seasons. So for instance, the spring or the Vasanta Rtū section speaks of Ugadi, Gudi Padwa, Bihu, Baisakhi and Ramadan. And for each of these festivals, there are recipes that are organized. So for instance, when it comes to Ugadi or Yugadi, the pronunciation will depend based on where you're coming from. So you have interesting recipes like the Kai Opattu, the Hal Opattu. For Gudi Padwa, you have recipes like the Srikhand, you have the Sabudana Khichdi, so on and so forth. So these are recipes that are presented by women from all walks of life, and I suppose they hail from the traditions that the recipes seek to celebrate. So what's also interesting is that within each section, within each festival, so for instance, if I were to take Navratri, it talks about the traditions of Navratri, it talks about the festive food that's available during Navratri, also some nice trivia, some nice did you knows, and then of course it goes on to the recipes that are perhaps most popular during Navratra. And then of course you have the major festivals as well, so you've got the Diwali Thali here. This cookbook is far beyond the recipes. So for instance, even as I peruse through the Diwali section, it speaks of the reasons for the season, for the celebration of Diwali. It speaks of the legends, the stories that are associated with it. It speaks of the background behind Dhanteras, the Badi Diwali, the Naraka Chaturdashi or the Choti Diwali, etc. And also, this is a cookbook that covers recipes across faiths, across regions of India. So you've got recipes from the south, you've got recipes from the north, from the east, from the west. So you have representations of Hindu festivals, of Muslim festivals, of Christian festivals, of Parsi festivals, etc. This is a book that seeks to integrate the people of the country through seasons. But there's also a recipe for a modak here, a kesar modak. You know, as I am perusing through this cookbook, and I've just spent just a day or so with this book, I'm beginning to find this more and more interesting. So this is a book that will not only help you make those recipes, and I suppose because these recipes are contributed by women, homemakers, etc., and I suppose most of them cook these recipes, I'm sure these recipes will perhaps be also very doable. There's a nice recipe on an avial here, a variation of an avial. So there's a classic avial and there's also a variation of the avial. There's a chicken biryani Lucknowi style. So this is a cookbook that has both vegetarian and non-vegetarian recipes too. I suppose it's more inclined towards the vegetarian recipes. I can see more vegetarian recipes in this. But then you also have things like the Malabar spinach and prawn curry. You have a mulled wine, I suppose, that celebrates Christmas. You have the Rogan Josh, you have the Keema Kofta too, the Tabak Mas, fish patio, you got the Lagannu custard, a favorite Parsi wedding custard. Some very interesting recipes in this, I must say. To celebrate Eid, you've got a rose and pistachio sharbat. For Baisakhi, you have the Aate ka halwa or the Kada Prasad. You have some appam and stew from Kerala. You have a makhana kheer, the fox nuts. So many recipes celebrating the flavor, the festivals, the traditions of this great country. I'm not sure if I will spend too much time making the recipes from this cookbook, but one thing's for sure, I will spend plenty of time exploring the food, the festivals and the traditions that have been presented in this cookbook. This is also the sort of book that will make for a good coffee table accessory. Very elegant, good quality paper, good photography. So the most interesting thing about this cookbook, Rtū Rasyā, that's presented by Ficci Flow, the Bangalore chapter, is that all proceeds from sale of this cookbook go towards empowering women initiatives. I'm told there are limited copies of this book. This book is priced at 1,500 rupees and is available on Amazon. So if you want to get your hands on this to either make the recipes or just peruse through India's culinary traditions, through the rich festivals of our country, and also to support a great cause, get to Amazon and order for your copy today. There's only limited copies available of this special hardbound edition. You will find all links in the description below.